There's an old joke about, they used to have the writers' rooms at the studios, right, where they put the writers in these rooms, they're kind of prisons, and they put 10 of them there, and they used to have studio spies, and the spy, he came around and he reported to his boss, he says, I stood outside the writing room, and there was one guy in there, he wasn't writing for 3 whole minutes. As far as I know, writing is mainly thinking. It's thinking and worrying and writing and thinking and worrying and taking a nap and trying to jump out the window, and eventually something gets done, you're not quite sure how. I try not to write on the weekends, but other than that, I just write every day. And I used to work in this cabin very much like this in Vermont, and one day I got up and I tried to get there 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, got my little mug of tea, and my daughter, who's now 33, was 10, and she said, Dad, where are you going? I said, well, I'm going off to write. She said, nighty-night. Because a lot of my writing those days, and in this, consists in taking a nap, because sometimes you just get burnt out. Well, eventually you have to end up with an outline for a play, eventually, and especially for a movie. So I don't know if I mentioned before, but what I try to do is take an unformed idea and write scenes and notes and blah, 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 till I can get the outline down to 15 lines on one page. And that's going to be the movie. And so what I do when I direct a movie, I've written and directed a movie, I've gotten the script, and I've rewritten the script, and I've reduced the script to a series of sequences that I can remember, and I've reduced the sequences to the scenes, and I've reduced the scenes to the shot list, so that I know every shot in the movie before I set foot onto the set. And when I set foot onto the set, of course, I never look at the notes. Why? Because I know them. Because if I don't know them when I stand up on the set, I've done something wrong. Now, I may and many times will come off the shot list. But if I don't got the shot list and get a better idea, or somebody might say, what about this? But if I don't got the shot list, if I don't have an outline, what am I shooting when I get onto the set? I was talking to some executive from a studio, and I said, how you doing? He said, I've got this big movie coming out. It's a $150 million movie coming out on Friday. I'm concerned about it. I said, well, why are you concerned about it? He said, well, the ending doesn't work. And I thought, well, why didn't you fix it? If you know the ending doesn't work, who's going to sprinkle fairy dust on your movie? If the outline doesn't work, the movie's not going to work. And so there's this thing called the pitch process, right? Where you come in and you talk to some executive for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, and the executive says, tell me the movie. You're pitching the movie to them, right? If you can't pitch the movie in 3 minutes and keep their attention, not only aren't they going to make the movie, you aren't going to make the movie because you don't know what the movie is. You got to be able to tell it in those 3 minutes. You got to be able to tell it in those 15 lines. And one of the great lessons I learned in movie making came from a continuity supervisor. And she was working on doing the day out of days of the board, or whatever the hell it was. What you do is you put down scene 1 or day 1, scene 1. Alice finds her dog's missing. Scene 2, she tries to contact the veterinarian to get the chip number. Scene 3, the veterinarian, she finds the veterinarian's dead. Scene 4, blah, blah, blah. So that each scene is a subtle reminder, a succinct reminder, rather, to everybody. What's scene 4 again? Oh yeah, scene 4 is she can't find her galoshes. I get it. That's the scene we're doing. So the continuity supervisor was looking at the board, and she said, wait a second, we got 2 scenes here that sound kind of like they're the same scene. And so I looked at it and I thought, well, that's wisdom. If 2 scenes on the board sound like they're the same scene, obviously I don't need both of them. I might not even need either one of them. Something's out of whack. I'm going to fix it on the outline. So I don't have to fix it on the set. So I don't end up having to fix it in the editing room. So I don't end up with an unreleasable movie because I somehow thought someone was going to sprinkle the fairy dust on it. There isn't any fairy dust, it's just a story. If you can't tell it to the next guy, you can't make a movie out of it. Writing dramatically is rewriting. You have to rewrite all the time, rewrite all the time, rewrite all the time. I made a lot of movies as both as a director and as a screenwriter, and they say you make a movie 3 times. You make it when you write it, you make it when you shoot it, and you make it when you cut it. And so I write a script and I work very hard on a script. It's like, A, because that's what I do for a living, and B, because I find it fascinating. And I take the script in front of the camera and say, this is the best script anybody ever made. This is going to be the best movie. I have nothing wrong with the script. It's perfect. And you start filming, you say, this is a crock of dreck. What have I done? Oh my God, I'd better try again. And you shoot it and you say, this is the best movie anybody ever made. It's perfect. You get into the editing room, and all anybody ever says in the editing room is, get me out of here. I am the dumbest son of a gun that ever lived. What have I done? Oh my God. And then again, you preview the thing. You say, okay, it's perfect. And you go through the process again. Writing is rewriting, because it's getting rid of your bad ideas. Because there's something that lives outside of your head that's trying to tell you something. If you say, okay, I want to write a story about a guy who becomes king of Thebes. There's something that's beyond your consciousness that says, okay, listen to me, right? Listen to me. Because I don't want you to write a cautionary tale. I don't want you to write the stuff that we can figure out day to day, right? Like Freud said, there's such a thing called psychic economy. He says you're going to have very serious problems in your life, right? One of them is, do I hire Sally or do I hire Rebecca, right? But you're not going to dream about it, right? Because your dream time is precious. You're only going to dream about the stuff that you can't solve rationally. So drama is dream time. You don't want to write a drama about, oh my God, deaf people are people too. Oh my God, thank you. Thank you, dramatist. You want to write a drama about the stuff that you can't figure, that doesn't quite have a rational solution, and it's driving you nuts. That's the correct use of drama. I was talking to a friend of mine who spent decades as an ER doctor, and she said, we're talking about something, she said, it's very simple. They come in, if it's X, they're going to die. If it's Y, they'll probably make it into the OR, right? If I can get them to the OR, I've done my job. I have 5 things I got to ask. What's their temperature? What's their pulse? What are their vital signs? Bibbidi bobbidi boo, right? That's how the ER doctor looks at the person who comes in off the car crash, right? You or I are going to look at the person and say, oh my God, look at this, look at that. Doctor, I have to tell you they're on this medicine. Doctor says, shut up and go away. I got a list of things I got to do. That will get me there faster than yours. Then I understand that you're involved, but I got to be clinical. And so that's what you got to be when you're looking at your own work. You got to be clinical. And the one thing that I love to do, is to cut, right? Because that's to me the utmost generosity, right? It's saying, yep, this is a scene. It's better a scene anybody ever wrote. Oh, it don't work. Boom. So somebody else might say, yes, but I say, My biggest fear in life is that the audience is going to beat me to the punchline. You got to write it down. You write it down. Is there magic involved? Probably. But all you guys out there, write it down. There's no way that you can subvert the process. There are many ways you can try. One is to stay in school. One is to get better, more or trickier software. Another one is, as I've done for my whole life, write lots and lots of outlines. But finally, they say in the screenplay, the hardest 2 words to write are fade in. At some point, you're going to say, okay, it's going to be bad. You got to stand being bad if you want to be a writer. Because if you don't, you're never going to write anything good. There's a wonderful man named Anthony Trollope, who wrote 47 novels in the late Victorian period from 1860 to 1880, 1890, 47 novels. And his day job was running the British Post Office. And so he paid a guy to come in and wake him up every morning, make him get out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning, because at 8 o'clock he had to run the post office. And he would sit down every morning at 5 o'clock, and he would write 2,500 words, and he'd stop. And if he wrote 1,500 words, and that finished the novel, he'd write another 1,000 words of the beginning of the next novel. And that was that's what he did. Everybody has their own ways, and it doesn't make any difference. I used to beat myself up constantly because I said, oh, Dave, you don't have any discipline. I know, Dave, you don't have any discipline because everybody told you don't have any discipline. You stupid son of a gun. Sometimes you go to work and you just stare at the thing. Sometimes you walk around. Sometimes you take a nap. You don't have any discipline. So discipline was a rod used to beat dreamy kids, or back in the day, and it may still be. But I realized, well, there's another meaning of discipline, which is I have the discipline to look at something truthfully and say, I can do better. Or to look at something that I don't want to do because it's hard and say, no, you have the discipline to stick with it until you're done. Because when you put your name on it, that's your name on it. That's your name at the top of the paper, So that's a different kind of discipline. And the great Leo Tolstoy talks about this in Anna Karenina, where Karenin has this son called Sergei, and Sergei is a dreamer. And Karenin, the kind of martinet father, is saying, no, I'm trying to talk to you about the difference between an adjective and an adverb. Can't you get into your head the difference between an adjective and an adverb? It's so simple. And he gets into the kid's head. Tolstoy says, the kid's looking out the window and he's looking at a butterfly and he's thinking about wind currents and he's thinking about what causes the wind and the rotation of the earth. And the kid is trying so hard to bring his attention back so as not to disappoint or not to be ungrateful to his father. But he's dreaming. And, that's what I've done all my life. And a lot of people, I think we all do to a certain extent. And the difference in me is I wrote it down.